All right, I'd like to start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahawashi, Ba'Hashem Rachak Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is Simple Things Made Complicated. And what I'm speaking about is the IUIC taking a simple concept, scriptural concept, and complicating it because they don't understand. And the Spirit was having Deacon Micaiah say about them not being right, and he's correct because they're totally off on that. I was watching Elder Pastor's video. Well, I was gonna watch it yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to. So this morning I clicked on the Elder Apostle Gabar's video that he did based off of the one Elder Pastor Hart did. So as he was getting started, what I did was I paused his, went back to Elder Apostle Tahar's video and watched that one. Then I went back and watched the Elder Apostle Gabar's video. And pretty much it's a very easy, simple, a simple thing that they've complicated, and when you go back to the beginning in Genesis, the first chapter, it tells you that the moon was created for signs and seasons and days and years, Then it says the Lord created two great lights, the greater light to rule the day and the lesser light to rule the night. And yes, when the moon is full, it is in its perfection, and that comes during the time of the middle of the month. When you calculate the time, and the new moon begins to count, which is the first day of the month, which is the first day of the week, so on and so forth, all the way until you get to the 29th day or so, 29 and a half days or so, and then the new cycle begins again. That's when the moon is refreshed every month. Now, we bring out the example of King David, well, actually David, before he was king, and the pact that he made with Jonathan, and how he told him to give me leave for 3 days, to see what the king is going to do, so on and so forth. You can go read the story in First Kings, the 20th chapter, I believe it is, and you can get the whole account. Now, in there, it said that he missed sitting at the table with King Saul and the other dignitaries, on the new moon. And the king didn't say anything that day because he figured maybe he was unclean, because another thing, that the new moon is a Sabbath. All right. When the new moon comes in, it is a Sabbath. It is the head of the Sabbaths, the one that dictates the rest of the time in the month of when the Sabbath is, because we didn't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, nothing like that. Back in the past, you had the first day, second day, third day, all the way to the seventh day. So when King David didn't show up the next day, it said that it was the second day of the month. So if the second day, if it was the second day of the month, and the day previous to that was the new moon, obviously it's letting you know that the new moon is the first day. That's where the count begins. This is why the month is called after the moon. The word month and moon are synonymous with each other. All right. Then, he went to Psalms 81:3, where it speaks about, matter of fact, let me grab that real quick so I can read it. And like I said, it's a very simple very simple, thing that they're complicating, because their understanding is being darkened, and the reason why is because they're giving praise to, Most High and Christ bless. Now the Most High, that is his title, but that's not his name. His name is Yahweh, and they know this. It's not like they don't know it. They know it, but they're just being rebellious, and they're just, so be it, for whatever the case may be. But Psalms 81:3 says, blow up the trumpet in the new moon, because every new moon, when the moon came in, you had the stargazers, I guess you could call them, or the watchers, of the heavens, to see the different phases of the moon. And this is why the scriptures speak about the moon changing, because the moon is what dictates time. Then that was a beautiful bird. The moon is what dictates time. And you had the tribe of Issachar, which Elder Apostle Gabar mentioned in his video. You had the tribe of Issachar that they would watch, for the phases of the moon to let you know when the end of the month was coming in, when the new moon was coming in, because it began a new month, to watch for the signs, watch for seasons, watch for the different high holy days. That's what they would do. All right. So every new moon, you would blow the trumpet, and that's why the head of the new moons, which is the 7th month, which is the feast memorial of blowing of the trumpets, that's why that was, set up and established. All right. So you had to have somebody watching, the different phases of what? Not the different phases of the sun, because the sun doesn't change. All the sun does is just, it goes in its orbit. It goes through the orbit of the day, then it comes back around the earth the next day. But the light of the sun doesn't really change. Sometimes it'll get closer and further away depending on its rotation, but the light doesn't change. It's always the same type of light. The only way the sun's light doesn't, give its light fully is if it's cloudy or some type of storm, but the light of the sun doesn't change, because what dictates time is the moon, and this is why it changes. The scriptures even speak about a fool changing like the moon, and those moon phases were to let us know when the beginning of the month came in, to when the different months came in, the different seasons, so that we can keep time and track of our high holy days and our calendars, and it was all dictated by the moon. So blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on our solemn feast day, right? So the time appointed, when you go to that word time appointed in the Hebrew, it does say the full moon. And the reason why is because on the full moon, you would have certain feast days. And the full moon is the middle of the month. All right. And that's why you had, the Passover, you had Feast of Tabernacles, which were started on the full moon in the middle of the month. Now we just read, or didn't read, we spoke about 1 Samuel, how the new moon, the next day after the new moon, was the second day, which means the new moon was the first day. So if the new moon is the first day, and we're reading here about appointed feast day, right? That appointed feast day comes at the 14th day at evening, which is the middle of the month. If it would have came in on the new moon, it would have said, the first day or the second day, So just based off of that, scriptural, very simple scripture, very simple scriptural context, you could understand that the new moon is the first day of the month. The new moon is what they call the dark moon, because it's not really dark, it looks dark because the light is not as bright. Because when the Lord created the lights, the moon is a light, regardless of if it's new or if it's full or whatever the case may be. But it just goes through different phases, because that's how the Lord set it up, to dictate time, pretty much. So if the Passover comes in at the 14th day at evening, and the new moon is the first day of the month, how can the full moon be the new moon when the full moon comes in, around the time of the Passover? It doesn't make sense. And seeing that these guys, that pride and the detachment from, the Lord's, vine, pretty much, that's what happens with a severed tree branch that begins to wither, because it doesn't have the truth or it doesn't have the foundation, which is Yahushai, attached to it, you know. So let's read this again. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon, in the time appointed, on our solemn feast day. You know, and that's in the middle of the month. Like I said, once again, you look up that word in the blue letter or in Strong's Concordance for appointed time, and it's the full moon. And the full moon is in the middle of the month. And the main feast day that would fall on that day would be the Passover, but you also had the Feast of Tabernacles, you know, and that would be the 14th day at evening. So if the scriptures are telling us that the new moon is the first day, how can the new moon be the full moon? You see, it doesn't make sense. And pride will not allow these guys to go back and correct themselves. It's a very simple fix. All you gotta do is humble yourself, you know. I went off on that, you know. Let's move on from there. You know, I was wrong on that. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? You know, but they're not gonna do that. And even Deacon Malachi kept saying, unless we're off or something along those lines. Yes, you are off. You're going straight up off. You know, but your pride won't allow you to see that. That's why y'all can't see it. And the Lord is stripping certain things from y'all that are very simple concepts. It's not even anything that complicated, you know. I'm surprised that here it is almost the end of 2023, and we still have to go back over the ABCs of the scriptures, you know, and that being one of them. That's a very simple thing. That's not even anything complicated to go into. And like Elder Apostle Gabar said, these Edomites out there, they know more than you guys, and that's a damn shame, because you're princes of the power, you know. We're supposed to be on a way higher level than these devils, but you guys are not, you know. You're still on the surface romper room level. You know, you go into a lot of good things, a lot of good history, you know, a lot of the right breakdowns, but there's certain things that are very simple that you're complicating. Like Yahushua said, you swallow a camel and strain at a gnat, you know. Salakim. So I just wanted to, you know, say a few words on that. The new moon is what they call the dark moon. You know, that is the beginning of the month. The full moon, which is in its perfection, is the middle of the month. The feast day that it's speaking about there in Psalms 81:3 is the Passover. The Passover falls on the 14th day at evening. So if the Passover falls on the 14th day at evening, how can it be on the new moon? Doesn't make sense. The new moon is the first day of the month. So how in the hell can you jump from the first day of the month to the 14th day of the month to keep the Passover? It doesn't work. You know, it's warped logic. All right? So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. Till the next time I say, Shalom.